All right, Larry Kruger here at Levi's Stadium for the Pig and a Pickle Krueg Show with a little 49er video as we recap everything that happened down here in Santa Clara on a Wednesday. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Also, thanks to Sharp Corner, sports cards and collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Thanks to Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. He's also a great follow on Instagram at Sharp Corners 831 on Instagram. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Niners and some of the news and notes from Ninerland. We probably should start with today, June the 11th, is the 69th birthday of the great one himself, the great Joe Montana, number 16, the original GOAT. What can you say? I mean, you know, other than happy 69th birthday, Joe. He's basically... he wrote all of the greatest chapters of 49er history, and he's the original, and he's beloved, and justifiably so, man. All I can say is that, you know, I grew up in the Sunset District as an 11-year-old in 1981 when Joe Montana won the Super Bowl, so you can only imagine the high regard that I hold him in, and I have had an opportunity to interview him 2 or 3 times throughout my broadcast career, and every time it's been a thrill. So happy 69th, Joe Cool. Nobody ever did it any better. Couple other 49er notes. The odds are out on a couple of edge rushers who may be looking for new teams. Both TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson no-showed Pittsburgh and Cincinnati's mandatory minicamps. And the odds are out on where these guys are going to play next. The odds on TJ Watt's next team, the Eagles are the 3-1 favorite, but the Niners are the second choice at 4-1, followed by Detroit, New England, Seattle, and Arizona. How about the Niners adding TJ Watt? And the odds on Trey Hendrickson's next team, if it's not the Bengals, New England is the favorite at 7-2, followed by Philadelphia at 9-2, Detroit at 5-1, and the Niners at 6.5-1 or 13-2. So wouldn't that be interesting if the Niners wound up with a little bit more edge rush? They added Mikael Williams, they added Bryce Huff. Will they be adding TJ Watt or Trey Hendrickson or anybody else for that matter? The other kind of interesting story or wrinkle is that the Bengals, I don't know what the Bengals are doing. They paid Jamar Chase and then they paid T. Higgins, but they're not going to pay Trey Hendrickson, and they're trying to seemingly throw a wrinkle into the Shamar Stewart contract negotiations. Stewart is yet to sign, and it's because of a wrinkle that the Bengals want that protects them in the contract. And Stewart is making it perfectly clear he wants no part of signing this. So they're now bad-mouthing each other. I'll say this, I like Shamar Stewart. I loved him at A&M. And if I were John Lynch, knowing what the 49ers have as far as cap room and draft assets and where they're at as far as they've got 10 new DBs, 7 new corners, a very young secondary, they need to have a pass rush up front. And that's why they brought in Mikael Williams. That's why they brought in Bryce Huff. What do you think of trading for a Shamar Stewart? I definitely would call Cincinnati and say, hey, I'll give you Robert Beal, I'll give you my 2026 second round pick, and then let's throw in a conditional pick in 27 based on how it goes. So here's Robert Beal and my 2026 second round pick, and I'll throw you a conditional 2027 draft pick in the 4th or 5th round based on how well Shamar plays. I'd offer that right now. The Niners have the second most cap room. They need a dominant defensive line. They need a dominant pass rush up front to cover for all the young DBs they have on the back end. You can never have enough. I'll take Mikael Williams and Shamar Stewart and Bryce Huff. You know, I'd like to have all of these guys. And Stewart's a guy that another guy, a big body guy, can play him inside if you want. That would be a phone call I would want to make. That would be a phone call I'd want to hear John Lynch make. You know, Trey Hendrickson probably can't afford him. TJ Watt, probably can't afford him. But Shamar Stewart for Robert Beal, a second-round pick and a conditional, third, fourth, or fifth in the following year, that seems doable. That seems reasonable. And that's a move I would make. I absolutely would make that. If I could add Shamar Stewart in a trade, I would. Now, the Bengals aren't there yet, right? I mean, they're not thinking trading Stewart. I haven't seen one rumor involving Stewart. But this thing's getting uglier by the day, and it's getting kind of personal. And it sounds like Stewart's kind of ripping the organization now. Obviously the organization's pretty dug in on this idea that they want this provision put in his rookie contract. Once again, if I was John Lynch, I'd call today. You want Robert Beal? You want a second-round pick? You want a 2027 conditional mid-round pick? In addition, let's do it. Let's bring Shamar Stewart to the 49ers and have him play on the West Coast. I'd love to see it. Practice notes. We had a chance to see practice today. Greg Joseph. Yesterday was the Jake Moody kicking day. Today was the Greg Joseph kicking day. Joseph went 7 for 7. He made one from 27, 32, 36, 40, 46, and 55. So Greg Joseph was perfect, 7 for 7. This is going to be quite the competition this summer. Greg Joseph against Jake Moody. The winner's the kicker, the loser's cut. Should be very interesting, but Joseph was good today. As far as who wasn't playing today, these are the guys that I didn't see out there. Demo Lenore, Curtis Rourke, Malik Mustafa, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Jair Brown, Darrell Luter, George Odom, Marquise Siegel, Fred Warner, Curtis Robinson, Andre Dillard, Yatir Gross-Matos, Alfred Collins, Mikael Williams, and Ricky Pearsall. Those guys were not practicing. They either weren't there or weren't practicing. A lot of those guys were working out on the side. As far as what were some of the highlights of the practice? Well, Jalen Mahoney had a nice interception of Mac Jones, and his teammates swarmed him. Great play by Mahoney. Nice leaping catch to take one away from Mac Jones. I thought we got our best glimpse of Jordan James, the rookie from Oregon. I thought showed an explosive burst of speed running down the sideline. That was the explosion I saw on offense. On defense, I saw Nick Martin flash some speed once again. Sebastian Valdez, the defensive tackle, continues to look really good in the one-on-ones. Now, it's drills. It's not even real football yet. We haven't even gotten to the preseason yet. But, man, this guy's got some juice. He's strong as an ox. He has several good reps throughout the off-season OTA and minicamp. And to me, he looks good. I'm really, really eager to see what Sebastian Valdez brings to the table. Great energy, great strength, really looking fantastic in a lot of the drills. And Kasarik has shouted him out more than one time for good play. So Valdez looks good to me. I thought Christian McCaffrey had a nice explosive run today. I thought Guerendo had a couple of explosive plays where he showed real explosive tendencies and looked fantastic. We had a chance to talk to Bryce Huff after practice. Or, before we get to Bryce Huff and CMC and Saleh, a couple more practice notes. Isaiah Nayer dropped a pass from Mac Jones. Nayer is still very raw as a receiver. He still body catches the ball. Everybody else, this is pro football. These guys are all plucking it with their hands, except for Nayer, who's still basket catching it in his body, and that obviously shows that he's really raw. Tatum Bethune was flying around making plays. I thought he looked good. Mason Pline made a really nice catch and run. Mason Pline has looked very, very fast in these OTAs. Isaac Guerendo flashed speed on multiple plays. DeMarcus Robinson, makes catches. This is a guy who you can see, he just knows how to free himself open down the field. Junior Bergen made a nice catch on a crosser today. Jacob Cowing, multiple nice catches. Jones hit Cowing on a deep ball. I thought that was probably Cowing's best catch of the day. Luke Farrell had a really nice reception. So a lot of good things on the practice field. As far as kind of some overall observations from watching OTAs, the Niner quarterback play has been strong. Jones is getting used to the Niner offense, but Purdy looks sharp, and Mordecai, I thought, has definitely looked sharp at times. We haven't seen Rourke play at all. He's probably going to get the redshirt year, but the quarterback play has been strong. The running back core is very deep, between McCaffrey, Guerendo, Kiner, James, Abanaconda, Taylor. I mean, Taylor Jr. They've got a lot of backs. Good depth in the backfield for sure. The offensive line is better than advertised. Now, a lot of people are going to say, man, the Niner O-line stinks. But Austen Pleasants looks fantastic as the third tackle. And some of the backups between Barch, who's now going to probably start at left guard, but now you still have guys like Burford and Nugent and Connor Colby, and there's several young offensive linemen. So it's a deeper offensive line group than we've seen. I think the linebackers look really, really fast. I mean, they've really jumped out to me. Not just the starters. I mean, the backup linebackers look really fast. I think it's a good-looking linebacking crew. The defensive line's very young. There's no question about that. And the defensive backfield is got 10 new faces. So that's going to have to be figured out in training camp. The one rookie that I saw running with the first teamers in the minicamp was Upton Stout. You know, Collins wasn't running with the ones. Mykel Williams wasn't running with the ones. Nick Martin wasn't running with the ones. The guy who was running with the ones was Upton Stout. And it looks like Stout's probably the guy that's going to be the first to start. But the Niners have 10 new DBs, including 7 new corners. And Robert Saleh said, hey, man, I'll wait till training camp to tell you what I think of these guys. I said to him, hey, man, you had Sauce and Reed in New York. Those guys were dudes. Renardo Green and Lenore are dudes, but are any of these other guys dudes? And he's like, you know what? It's hard to tell right now. We'll know more come summertime. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, and then I think overall it's pretty obvious that the 49ers are going to be improved on special teams. You know, the kicking competition was probably going to be good. You got a new long snapper, a new punter, several new players on special teams. It seems to be a whole new emphasis. So I think special teams looks improved. The defensive backfield is an unknown because of the 10 new faces. The D-line's young but talented. The linebackers look really fast. The O-line, because of guys like Colby and Austen Pleasants, I think is better than advertised. The running back core looks deep. If there is a need, it's probably on the perimeter, either at corner or at wide receiver or more pass rush. You know, you say 3 areas of the Niners. You're not going to be able to improve the O-line. So if you can improve the wide receiver position or the cornerback position or the edge rusher position, those would be the 3 areas that maybe the 49ers could still stand to add a player. Then after practice, we had a chance to talk to Bryce Huff and CMC and Robert Saleh. First, let's talk about Bryce Huff. He said that, you know, he loved Robert Saleh with the Jets. He said the practices in New York were really intense. I asked him who helped him kind of cultivate his getting off the ball skill, which is obviously his greatest trait. And he mentioned Jannard Avery, who played with the Eagles and helped him when they were together at the University of Memphis. They had a similar body type, he said. And watching Avery as a pass rusher helped Huff develop his skills. I thought that was interesting. He says he's real comfortable with the Niners. He knows a lot of the Niner players. He's happy to be here. He studied D Ford's get-off quite a bit with the Jets. He says he's got the same type of stride as Huff does. You know, it's funny. He was asked, did he want to come to the Niners? And he said he had a few places that he had in mind as possible trade destinations. He's really happy that he's here. He's a team player. He said that Chris Cassera clearly loves the game, and you can see his passion for football and how he coaches the position. And he basically described himself as a hustle player, you know, that, you know, my job is to run to the ball, and that's what I do. I get off the football and I run to the football. So it was interesting talking to Bryce. And then we got a chance to talk to CMC, and he said, you know, hey, man, he loves this time of year. It's a lot of fun. I asked him, how's he feeling? Because he had the PCL injury. He had the double Achilles tendonitis, and he says he's 100%. He says, I feel really great. I spent the offseason kind of rebuilding my health overall, and he says he feels 100%. He's got no physical concerns, which is great news because there is no player that means more to the Niners on the field than CMC, you would think. He says, look, my job is just go 100%. He's like, I've got things simplified. I just go out there and try to go 100%. He's having a kid soon. He said he didn't plan the timing of it with him and his wife, but he's having a kid soon. He's really excited about having a kid. It's funny. Grant asked him, do you train your training methods as you age? And he said, yeah, he modifies his training as he ages. And he says, you got to find middle ground. You got to listen to your body, and you got to just kind of, intuitively understand what your body needs to prepare itself for the season. He says that the extra time off helped him rebuild his kind of overall base, and that's in all phases, emotionally, physically, mentally. He just feels a lot more built up because of the extra time that he's had. He says that, he's really excited to see that this new edition of the 49ers get going and start hitting the field in July. He was asked about Corey Kiner, and he said both of our rookie running backs have been awesome. Jordan James and Corey Kiner. He said they got a great attitude. They show up every day wanting to work and get better, and he really loves the attitude of the rookies. And then we had a chance to talk to Robert Saleh, and he was asked about Gus Bradley and what he likes about Bradley, and he said, he really trusts Bradley, and he's excited to have him here in San Francisco. He was asked about what does Bryce Huff add, and he said speed off the edge. And Saleh said, the thing about Huff is that forget the sack totals. This guy wins at a very high rate, and that's what he's really excited about. I asked him, he was kind of asked to evaluate some of the players, and he resisted. Robert Saleh didn't want to be on the record as evaluating the players. He said, this was more about just trying to show improvement and a proper attitude, and that he'll have much more evaluation when they put the pads on this summer. And he wants to wait until training camp before he really starts to evaluate the players. He said he's been thoroughly impressed by Brock Purdy. He called him a damn good quarterback. And you can tell that Saleh, likes several of the things that Purdy does on the football field. Saleh also talked about, he was asked how Bryce Huff has progressed throughout his career. And he said he came in as a linebacker, and then he put on 20 pounds of muscle, and it really took off from there. He also said that he's a big fan of Jason Pinnock. He said he's a really good player. He adds athleticism and speed and high IQ to the secondary. As far as the 7 new DBs, I said, man, are there any dudes in the mix? And he's like, hey, we're going to know more when the pads come on. So I think he wanted to, hold off evaluating any of the DBs. And then he was asked about D. Winters, and he said, yeah, D. Winters looks good. He said he's been impressive. So obviously there's some, belief that Winters can really help the 49ers. So a lot of interesting stuff today. Good dialogue from Saleh, good stuff from Christian McCaffrey. It's always great to wrap with McCaffrey. And then we got our first chance to talk to Bryce Huff, and there's an intensity about Bryce Huff that's really, really cool. So that does it for our breakdown. But yeah, I would say the overall, if you say, what are your takeaways, Krueg, from OTAs, the offseason? Let's forget the facts and forget the talking points and just, what jumped out. I would say Brock Purdy looks really, really sharp. Definitely the running back group, I think, looks replenished and refreshed. CMC was looking very much like CMC. Guerendo is a guy that I think is going to really take off. I think Guerendo is absolutely going to take off. Kittle is going to be used in the passing game more because now there's Luke Farrell as a blocker. I think the offensive line is actually going to improve a little bit because there's good competition for the backup jobs. They still probably need an infusion of 2 or 3 big-time blue chipper type players on that offensive line, but I think it is an improved line from what we saw a year ago. Special teams, I think, is almost guaranteed to be improved. The big question with this team is on the defensive side. Have they done enough up front? There's some real talented guys on their defensive line, but are they ready to go? There's a lot of youth on that front line. How ready is the Niner defensive line to play? And then what kind of secondary do you have? You know, do the Niners, can they dial up enough rush? You know, defensive football is about rush and cover. Can you dial up enough heat on the quarterback to move him off the spot and make him throw it before he wants to places he doesn't want to? Or does he sit back there and carve you up like a Thanksgiving turkey because you don't have enough pass rush and you got a lot of young DBs and a lot of new DBs? So the defense is the wide open variable. I think the special teams is going to be much better. I think the offense is going to be a different look with more speed. It's going to be a more dynamic offense, but it's going to be some new skill position guys. I think the O-line is going to have a upgraded season based on the competition that I think is going to go on in that room throughout the year. The big wild cards are going to be, how good is the Niner defensive line? How much pass rush can they put together? How good is either D. Winters or Nick Martin next to Fred Warner? And how many ball players do you have in that secondary? 10 new faces on the back end, 7 new corners. You may have a new safety tandem in Pinnock and, you know, early on, there's a very good chance that the 49ers are going to go, you know, Jair Brown and Jason Pinnock easily could be their starters at safety week 1. And, you know, the depth and the talent in the secondary is very speculative at this point. There's a lot of interesting players there, but some special teamers, some undrafted free agents. They may need to add a significant player in the secondary, and that might be something to watch for as well in the weeks ahead. Do they go for a Ramsey? Do they go for, you know, a Jair Alexander? You know, do they try to add a significant player in the secondary? To me, if it was my team, I don't think I would go for the veterans. Like the talk about Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen, and I don't know. I wouldn't go that direction. The talk about, you know, Jair Alexander and Jalen Ramsey, I wouldn't go that direction. The talk about, you know, TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, I wouldn't go that direction. But if I could get a Malachi Corley, who's a younger receiver, if I could get in a trade a Shamar Stewart because I was willing to trade future draft picks and maybe this thing blows up in Cincinnati, I'd be interested in that. If I could find, you know, a corner or a safety that's cut by another team or isn't going to make another team's roster this summer that doesn't have a big name, I might consider that as well. So I do think the Niners are, you know, let's say 2 or 3 key players away. They aren't necessarily stars, but man, if I could add Malachi Corley or Shamar Stewart or another corner, I'd love it. And I think they ought to, because I think the 49ers have the second most cap room of any team in the sport, and the Super Bowl 60 is going to be played right here at Levi's, and I think the Niners have a very good chance with this schedule to be in that game. But they're going to have to get a little bit more on the perimeter, and they're going to have a pass rush. If you told me they could rush the passer, I feel better. But I think can they rush the passer is one of the questions. Can they stand up on the back end defensively is a major question. I think they'll be better on special teams just with the presence of Brant Boyer and some of the changes they've made. So there you go. There's a wrap on the 49er offseason program. We're now going to take 40 days before training camp to reflect, get better, and hopefully I'll reflect and get better and be ready for training camp. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed some of the content we've thrown you and some of the information that we brought you from 49er OTAs and 49er Minicamp. That does it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube.